I thought I'd do a quick little introductory video. I'm going to start getting into these hives here. Today is March 4th, 2020. And I don't know if you remember last video I took down here in the Chico, California area. We were putting third boxes on some of the stronger colonies. And so now we're going to go, or I'm going to go and check the queen bank that we set up and see what we have resource-wise there, and to just more or less break all of these down to doubles again, because the crew is coming on in a couple of days to pick these up, move them to the holding yard, and then I'll be running down here with the big truck to bring the bees back to California, or back to Washington rather. One of the shortest blooming periods that they've seen in quite a long time, due to just how hot it was and how dry. And here, let's show you the smell. The smell in these almonds is just beautiful. You see some of the blooms here, but more or less it's finished. The bees have been released, and but there's still enough of those blossoms to it's just a wonderful sweet smell. And be thankful for your almonds. Anyways, I'll merge this video into the ones that are upcoming. Okay, so we ran into a bit of a snag, kind of a painful one, in the sense of I checked my queen bank and all my queens are dead. And so, I mean, I can take time to try and figure out why that is, but right now we're running on a time schedule. But at the same time too, you know, perfect example of, in beekeeping, you're going to have setbacks. I mean, I had what, $600-700 worth of queens, but the main thing is, obviously, you know, what can you learn from it, and then move on. But I want to show you, so this is the third box here on this colony, and let's look at this is one of the appeals of almonds. Hang on here, let me see. Look at the cap brood on here. Isn't that beautiful? And that's up in the third box. So ideally, had the queen survived, we would have obviously gone ahead and taken a split off of this. But what we're doing, because we have to have the the bees out of here in the next couple of days, I'm actually just going to super all of them to 3 high, so that it's standardized size-wise for transportation, and we're going to go and do that. But no, it's a perfect example of you know, in farming or in any kind of business, you're going to have setbacks, and the main thing is okay, you know, you look at the setback and say, what can I do to keep moving forward? And in this way, I still haven't made up my mind of what our approach is going to be once we get them up to Washington. Because of our cool weather that we're having up there, they should be fine, but we're also going to be struggling with, if we get a warm stretch, some of these stronger colonies might have a tendency to want to prepare for swarming. It'll depend upon just how our maple flow is going to be up there, because obviously when bees have a good nectar flow and they're starting to get crowded, that's when the swarm impulse starts to kick in. So we'll just kind of play it by ear. But for right now, going to go and super these up so that they're 3 high and easier to move and stack on the truck. Here's another interesting dynamic of almonds. So when the inspector came through, he graded this as 4 frames of bees. That would have been right before the almond bloom. Now, if we open this up, look at the and this is both boxes full of bees. And so anyway, just a perfect example of you know, if your bees are healthy going into the almonds, it's amazing amazing how they can build up, and it's really rather gratifying to watch. Here's another example of when they inspected it. Had 2 frames of bees, and now it's probably up to about 3.5 here on the top. The bottom has a decent population as well. And so, yeah, just amazing, you know, what a good nectar honey flow can do. Some people ask about almond honey, and almonds do produce nectar. That's actually why one of the reasons why these bees build up so well. The pollen is very nutritional, and the nectar flow as well. But the nectar itself, if you ever try it, this one bee is set on stinging me in the thumb. If you try it, it's kind of it has a at first it's kind of a pleasant taste. Look at the brood on that. At first it has a pleasant taste, and then you get this really bitter aftertaste in the back of your mouth, and so it's just not a good honey for human consumption. If you're wondering what I'm doing here, I've got some, this is actually a pretty light box, and so I'm actually just taking some honey from some of these other hives that are really heavy, like this here. You can see this is all capped honey, and putting that in the light box, so that especially, you know, we're going to be taking these obviously up to Washington, and depending on the weather, I mean, we get a really good maple flow a lot of times, but the issue is that a lot of times the weather is not good enough for them to really take advantage of it, as in, you know, it being either too cold or it's raining. But if the bees get good foraging weather, they actually, you know, we can get a really nice maple flow up in Washington, and it's a very pleasant tasting honey, kind of like maple syrup. Go figure. But anyways, yeah, so like I say, I'm just kind of gluing various videos together. I'm also going through, as I mentioned in the beginning, I was sad to discover that all the queens in my queen bank died. It's either from heat, because it's been in the 80s here, or a mix of when you bank queens, you're not supposed to have attendant bees in the cage with the queen, and just the way they ship them, the company I ordered from had attendants, and I just didn't have the time to take them out of there, and so, you know, whatever, one of those two things sealed the deal. But so what I'm doing is, for the colonies that have already established in the 3rd box, you can kind of see that pallet far over there, we're putting an even amount of boxes on that particular pallet, just so that when we go to load them, it's easier. And so that's kind of what I'm doing right now, and yeah, I'm working my way down the road. Yeah, so here's a perfect example of the nectar flow that they got from the almonds. So really, you can see they're definitely enjoying it, and overall bees are looking excellent. Looking forward to getting my first of the year queens in. I gotta wait a while. They're coming in I have to double check, but I'm wanting to think it's actually middle of April, and so chances are good that what I'll be doing is just supering these. One of the issues that I have in Washington on the western side is that we do raise our own queens, but the weather is not consistently good enough for queen mating until usually the beginning of May at the earliest, and so I have to order in my first batch of queens to make splits coming back from the almonds. Okay, so here's kind of an interesting manipulation that you'll probably have to do at some point in beekeeping, and it's a really handy one to know. And that is, this colony was just, I mean, it's a good double deep. I mean, you can see it has a good population, but the bees really hadn't started coming into the second box. So what I did, I took the second box away. However, the hive next to it, I had, it was 3 high, and they were starting to establish pretty decently. I don't know if you can see kind of the white wax there. There's about 2 frames of cap brood and another couple of frames of bees. So what I did is I took this box off, and by the way, whenever you're handling hives, it's a great idea to use the lid as something that you can put boxes down on. You just shift them so that they're kind of diagonal on the box, just sitting on the ends. Great way of setting boxes aside without getting dirt or grass or anything stuck underneath them. But anyway, so I took this box off, put it to the side, took the frames out, shook the bees down into the second box so I knew I didn't have the queen up here. Grabbed a queen excluder, which you can see here, put that on, put the box back on, put the lid back on, and went and did the other stuff I had to do. So when I come back, it's maybe an hour later, 2 hours later, this is populated with bees again, which I can then put onto here. And you can use newspaper. I don't have any newspaper, so I'm just using some packing paper. And what you can do is, even if you're just covering the center cluster, even if they can get around the sides, that's enough to diffuse when you're merging them together. That'll give them enough of an opportunity. Plus two, when you have cap brood and also open larvae, a lot of the bees up here are going to be young, and they're a lot less, they have a lot less of a proclivity towards aggression when merging with other hives. So once again, I apologize. I left my phone holder, so I'm just gonna do this real quick here. And they got good weight to them. Okay, so there. So now we've got that. Got the queen excluder. As you can see already, I mean, this hive is going to be just fine. You know, a good thing to do, to form a habit of, is when you take an excluder off, watch for the queen. Every once in a while, you'll get her on there. I just shake it off, and so now we can go back and put this lid back on. These are absolutely awesome to work with today. I lit a smoker at first. Another thing too, when you're putting a lid back on, just bang the bees off in front of the hive so you're not crushing them. And there, that colony's been given a boost, and the strength has been equalized a bit, and you know, no worries of having to look for the queen and all that stuff. So yeah, I got all my work tied up here, and now I've just got to get get on the back of my truck here and get it organized and tied down. And then I do believe I have earned myself some lunch, and so that's going to be the whatever it's called, plan of events, train of events, detail of events. No, still not the terminology I'm looking for. Anyways, catch you later.